Welcome back to Comic Book History, episode 73. Now, you're probably thinking, Nick, you haven't done the series in a month, and last episode you teased that you were going to do X-Force. Well, I need to do a little more research on X-Force, so I want to talk about their big leader, Cable, created by Louise Simonson and Rob Liefeld, and Chris Claremont. Not kidding about that, yes, because the thing is, Cable first appeared as a baby back in Uncanny X-Men 201. You see, his father is Cyclops. His mother, you probably think, okay, who was the number one person Scott Summers been in love with for years and later on married? Jean Grey? Is that his mother? No, that is actually not his mother. His mother is Jean Grey's clone. I am not kidding about that. Madeline Pryor. She is literally Jean Grey's clone. She looks almost exactly like her. Yes, they got... Yeah, here's the strange thing, though, about Cyclops. He is, believe it or not, the first known confirmed X-Men who has been a member of the X-Men to have a child. Of course, Charles Xavier was later retconned to have a child later. And if you're curious, though, has any other X-Men confirmed to have children besides Cyclops and Charles Xavier? The answer is yes, there is. There is also Wolverine. He has many daughters and he has a son. Yeah, Wolverine's got kids. I'm trying to think there was any other... Well, you can kind of count Captain Britain because he's kind of loosely associated with the X-Men. Aside from that, there's not many X-Men who actually are parents. Well, technically there is one more, and that's Beak and Angel. They actually have 5 kids, believe it or not. Yes, and they're all look exactly like their father. Though here's the thing, after M-Day, all of them except for one, Tito, actually lost their powers. Yeah, I'm not kidding about that. Seriously, how it happened with that. Now, in the case of Cable, what is the man's real name? His real name is Nathan Christopher Charles Dayspring Summers. Dayspring was actually involved in a that was actually explained as a backstory where he was actually adopted by the Dayspring clan in the future. Yeah, there's a lot of time jump with the character. Now, where do the names come from? Like Nathan, Charles, and Christopher. Well, Christopher and Charles. Christopher comes from his grandfather, Christopher Summers. Charles comes from Charles Xavier. Nathan is actually something Scott did not want to call him at all. Nope. Excuse me. He wanted to call him Christopher. That's what he wanted to call him. The problem was his mother did not want to do that, though. Nope. The name Nathan, believe it or not, comes from the man who bullied Scott Summers as a child. Yes, because Madeline Pryor wanted to spite him. Why? Because he left her. Because Jean Grey was discovered to be a lie, so he left her. Yes, that is the literal reason why that she named him the name Nathan. And the name is stuck. A lot of the time it's usually referred to as Nathan or Cable. That's the thing with the guy. And when he was a baby, he was actually infected with a virus. I think it's like a techno-organic virus. Yeah, it's the virus that basically encompasses his arm. Yes. And he had to be sent to the future. Oh, and by the way, guess who infected with this damn thing? Apocalypse. And Apocalypse became Cable's arch nemesis in the future. And the weird thing is, Apocalypse was heavily associated with Cable. Cable hated this guy so much that somehow he ended up in the future where Apocalypse was ruling the world. And it's sort of like Age of Apocalypse, but not like Age of Apocalypse. Eventually he grew up and be an old man. Well, an older guy. Very muscle-bound and had a scar across his face. I don't know if they ever really... I don't remember if they actually explained that. Now, you might be curious, though. See, of course, his father, of course, was a known mutant. Cyclops, Optic Blast. Does Cable have any powers? Yes, he's a low-level psychic. Yes. It was actually revealed in a mini-series done by Matthew Rosenberg. He actually can use Cerebro, no problem. Yes, he can use Cerebro. Now, as for his appearance, now his initial creator, Rob Liefeld, I'm not really sure why in the world he decided to create a muscle-bound guy with pouches. But that's Liefeld for you. He loves pouches. He loves it. Why the Why the shoulder pad? Why the shoulder thing? Honestly, I don't know. The Cable is never known for using swords. His big thing is he uses guns, and plus he has this thing called Time Slide, where he can time travel wherever the heck he wants. And he's been part of several different groups over the years. He's been loosely associated with the X-Men. He's also founded a group before he founded before he became part of the Mutant Seed when he first showed up in issue 87 of the series. And according to Liefeld, he explained the reason why he basically became artist for New Mutants over, let's say, one of the bigger titles. Because New Mutants was not selling too well at that point. So he said basically to come in the book and basically spice it up. And here's the interesting thing when it comes to New Mutants. He comes to the series with issue 87. And he did all the issues up to issue 100. But he actually skipped an issue. Yes, he actually skipped an issue. Just at the cover for issue 93. Excuse me. As far as I can tell, there was really no... I've never heard the reason for this at all. If I would get a chance to meet Liefeld, I might ask him about that. So Cable comes back in time and becomes basically a new teacher for the New Mutants. Yes. And then exactly 11 issues after his debut, when he first joins the group, Deadpool shows up! I am not kidding about that. Less than a year later, we have Deadpool's debut, along with the character Gideon, which he actually showed. He not really a big character in the comics, Gideon. And the very next issue, we had Shatterstar. In the final issue, we had debut Cable's replacement team for New Mutants, X-Force. Cable would be technically the lead of X-Force for the first 70 issues of the series. And during this period of time when he was leading X-Force, he got some spin-off books. Well, first he had the Cable Bloody Metal series. And that was done by Fabian Nicieza. Now before I continue, here's the strange thing about Cable. Whenever he's had a solo book, here's the weird thing about it. Like, you might ask, did Louis Simonson ever had a hand in writing any of these books? The answer is nope. Never did. And you probably think, has Rob Liefeld ever wrote or drew a Cable book? Kind of, yes, that he actually did Cable and Deadpool. But the Cable solo book? No, he never did. He never did the book at all. Nope. Never did. He never wrote it. He never drew it. No, he never did. And you're probably thinking, really? He never drew Cable? Well, he drew him in other books, but not his own solo book for some reason. Nope. Now, the book itself was started with Fabian Nicieza, and then was handed off to Jeff Loeb and Ian Churchill. And at one point we had James Robinson on the book. Yes, James Robinson actually wrote the book before he did this run, which I'll get this one. And you have a few other writers like John Francis Moore. It was Fabian Nicieza, Jeff Loeb, Tom DeZio, James Robinson, obviously, Joe Casey, Joe Pruitt, Robert Winsberg, and David Tisman. Now, when Cable got an ongoing series, it lasted for 107 issues and had roughly, I think, about a handful of annuals. Yeah, and here's something quite strange, though, about the annuals when it came to... From the annuals that came from 1995 to about 1997. For some reason, they were called X-Force and Cable Annual 1995. I don't know if this was a cost-saving measure for Marvel to do this, but technically, Cable didn't have a standalone annual until like 1999. Yeah, so he did. I think he did have 3 separate annuals of his own, and then eventually he had to do team of annuals with X-Force for a few years, and then he had a team up annual with somebody else. Let's see here. He had it with Machine Man. Yes, he had a Machine Man. And then finally, the next annual was basically his own solo book. And yeah, let's see. As far as I can tell, like after Cable 1999, I don't think he ever produced a single annual ever again. Yeah, that's the weird thing about it. He never produced a single annual after this. Yeah, this was the last special one he put out. hmm Yeah, there was no real explained reason for this at all. Of course, it was also Machine Man and Bastion. It was a part of a two-part story. And pretty much with the book ended at issue 107, it was relaunched as Soldier X for 12 issues. Now, in the book, Cable was slimmed down in the book. They explained in the final issue of the book, he tried to basically extract the virus from the system and ended up basically making him a skinny, thin guy. And he called himself Soldier X for a year. And then eventually he got the virus back in his body, make him soup up again. And then he of course had a reunion miniseries with X Force. And also at this period of time, he decided to have a team up series with Deadpool, where Rob Liefeld was the artist for this book. Yep. Yeah, he was the artist for the book. Mm-hmm. Yes. It was called simply Cable and Deadpool. It lasted for about 50 issues. And the thing is, when it comes to this particular book, that now Cable himself was in the first 42, and then he left because of stuff related to, let's just say, a different event. Of course, that book was mostly done by Fabian Nicieza, Riley Brown, who was the writer of the book, along with Mark Brooks, Patrick Zurcher, Lee Mania, Rob Lem. Now, as far as I can tell for the cover artwork, yes, Liefeld did work on some of the cover artwork, but not a lot of it, though. No, not really. Excuse me. This is mostly a team series for Cable and Deadpool, and throughout this period of time, when just prior to this book came out, he did briefly join the X-Men. And at one point, when Cyclops apparently died, he took his visor and had around his neck. And then years later, he actually, as an honoring Captain America, on his metal arm, he had Captain America's shield put on it. And, well, Cable and Deadpool went on Wacky Adventures in their own book. And then eventually, by issue 42, Cable died. Well, for the first of about 2 or 3 times he actually died in the series, in the franchise. Yep, first of 2 or 3 times he's died. And then he, well, apparently died because also in the series, he got his own freaking country. Yes, Cable got his own freaking country called Providence, where he was later proclaimed the president of. And this is where this is where basically his main base was during this period of time. And of course, the thing did come back, and then with the events, and of course, he did also rejoin Mike Carey's run for the X-Men Legacy or X-Men book from issues 188 to pretty much about 200. Yes, he left just prior to the events of X-Men Messiah Complex, where he was reported dead. And then they later found him alive carrying a baby. This baby being, well, the actual Hope Summers. Yep. And if you want to hear my thoughts about what happened to Messiah Complex, take a look at the crossover. It's a really good crossover. Yeah, it had a very, in my opinion, very controversial opening issue where the Purifiers decided to attack a hospital. Well, to go after the baby ward and kill a bunch of babies because they suspect that one of them may have been the first mutant born since M Day. Cable's only mutant who actually got his powers, by the way. And then after the events of Messiah Complex, he got his own spin-off book again, this time by Dwayne Trzynski. And like the first five, which went through about 5 or 6 writers, this one had one writer. and it was involved with at least one crossover throughout the book's entire existence, and that was Messiah War. The main villain of this book was Bishop. Anybody thinking Bishop, as in Lucas Bishop from the Days of Future Past storyline? Yes, that guy. Because Bishop mistakenly believed that Hope Summers was not Messiah for hope, like peace. He thought that Hope was going to destroy the mutant race. He had that stupid belief. And at one point, he was about to shoot Cable, who had the baby, and Cable time slide future. Excuse me, this happened during the Messiah complex. And he ends up actually shooting Charles Xavier in the head. Somehow, some way, Cable was there. And in the Messiah War, Hope got along really well with Laura and a lot of members of X-Force, which was really cool. Of course, Cable didn't really question, hey, you call your group X-Force. That's my team. He never questioned that at all. Yeah, I thought that was kind of dumb for Dwayne just not to question why the heck that Wolverine was calling his team X-Force, even though he had his own X-Force that he led. At least he knew Domino. And she at least had past association with the original X-Force, so there was that. And throughout the book, Cable was raising Hope Summers. That was the main plot throughout throughout the entire 24 issues. 25 was retitled to be Deadpool and Cable, and then of course they had issue 26 to this, released the following year, as sort of basically Deadpool paying tribute to Cable because what happened in Second Coming, where Cable, well, as part of another time travel thing with X-Force, which he actually joined this version of X-Force's mission as an official member, he went to the future. And then apparently he died. Yep, he died. In issue 28. And here's the interesting thing, though. They kept him dead for 2 years. And then they would do the most strangest thing they did possible. They kind of retconned his death. They revived him in this miniseries AVX X Sanction, where he tried to go after the Avengers, and he ends up coming afoul of the Red Hulk in the miniseries, which I found to be so hilarious. I mean, come on. I mean, he apparently knew nothing about the Red Hulk. Probably because he was just a recent creation. And plus, also, Red Hulk probably kept his activities a secret from Cable. Eventually, this landed to AVX, which he did nothing in it. He did seriously nothing. And after this event wrapped up, he decided to reform his own X-Force team in the short-lived Cable and X-Force series by Sam Humphries. This group was comprised of a certain amount of people. Let's see, was comprised of people like, I think it was like, it was like Colossus, Domino, Warpath was in the Warpath was actually in the book. Doctor Nemesis and Forge. Yeah, seriously, this was the freaking group. Yeah. Dennis Hopeless and Salvador Roca basically work on this book, and this lasted like 19 issues. And the other reason the book ended because it had a crossover with, of all things, Uncanny X-Force, when he ended up basically teaming with them, taking a freaking Strife of all people. And then the book ended, and afterwards, it was relaunched simply as X-Force. Most of the same roster, except Colossus was off the team, and they put Psylocke on the team. And Cable had this thing, he kept referring to Betsy Bragg by her full name as Elizabeth. Which, excuse me, I thought that was kind of weird. Also, during Cable and X-Force, it's pretty much in the way, best way you can describe this group is that it was kind of a reunion of the original X-Force, because Boom Boom was part of the team, and Hope later on did join the team as well. And then by the next round for the series, Hope was still on the team, except somehow she got in a coma. And then by the end of the book, he got fired from the group. Yes, Cable got fired from his own team. and Hope Summers took over leadership of the team. And this team wasn't seen again for about 3 years. As what Cable was up to right after this book ended, let me think about that. He did, well, not much. Seriously, I think he did practically nothing for about a few years. Because there's not really a lot of noteworthy things he did like right after Secret Wars. Yeah, that's kind of the weird thing about this. Is that Cable himself did practically nothing. Yeah, there was nothing really noteworthy he did. He just didn't do anything. Yeah, there's nothing really big he's known for doing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for the next like couple years, he was dealing with, let's see. After X Force ended, there was also a couple things. So I kind of forgot about this stuff. He was involved with a miniseries team with Deadpool, which was a digital first. Involved with the third volume of Uncanny Avengers briefly, where he was actually a member. And then he got his own solo book again, where he first had this book here by James Roberts, which I had previously reviewed. Yeah, this book. You have the next volume, which was the New Mutants by Ed Bronson. And then you had the following set of issues by Zach Williams. This book, I still do not know the reason why. Every time they finished up a story arc for this book, they had to get a new creative team in the book. Do not know why. And then the events of Extermination happen. When the opening issue, Cable gets killed. Again. This time by a Kid Cable. Yeah, seriously, got killed by Kid Cable because he said he outlived his usefulness. And then they reformed the classic X-Force to go after him, and eventually he joins X-Force with the new X-Force volume, which Ed Bronson wrote that book, but it had really bad artwork. If you remember my reviews of the two trades that collect that run, the book itself, the writing was fantastic. I love the writing. The artwork was atrocious. It was terrible. Like, why the heck? I think this is the reason this book ended after 10 issues. And then once this book ended, the young Cable later got his own spin-off book as Cable, which is going to be ending really soon. I think it has like one issue left. And somehow the original Cable's alive thanks to Krakatoa. Excuse me. And, there's not really a lot to say else about Cable. He's a really interesting character. I mean, if you look at, let's say, a lot of stuff Rob Liefeld has come up with, I mean, Linkara has poked fun of him a lot. Like, I mean, when he reviewed the 2-issue miniseries Cable, Blood and Metal, which he referred to simply as Cable #1 and Cable #2, even though the miniseries referred to as Cable, Blood and Metal. And he also reviewed the first issue of X-Force. He even had this hilarious bit where he dressed up as Cable when he reviewed Cable Blood #1, where he says, "Hey, I heard you were making fun of my comic book." And then, of course, he just somehow tricked them and got his gun, and then this Cable was killed by Mecha-Car in the show. I thought that it'd be so hilarious. Now, that's not the only time Cable has been seen outside the comics. Oh no. Of course, you have the Josh Brolin version who show up in Deadpool 2. Which, I have actually spoken to Fabian Caesar about this version. And, yeah, he did a great job as Cable. Yes, Josh Brolin did a great job. And Fabian Caesar himself, who was actually scheduled to do was actually planning to do a cameo in Deadpool 2. But schedule conflicts got in the way. But he actually really enjoyed Josh Brolin's take on Cable. I did too. I thought he did a really good job. He frickin' acted like Cable. He basically had the right build. His hair was white. He basically did the time travel stuff, the time slide stuff. And he basically, was act kind of like Bishop in the movie a little bit, but he was a fun character in the movie. He didn't necessarily have like the shoulder pad thing that he's known for having in the comics, but yeah, he acted like frickin' Cable. Gotta at least praise Josh Brolin for that. Well, he also did appear on the X-Men animated series, where a lot of the time he was seen fighting frickin' Apocalypse. And only once in the series he actually countered frickin' Bishop. Only once. And you might ask, did he pop up over in the X-Men? Not that I can think of, no. I don't remember him ever appearing on the show. Nope. Did he appear on X Evolution? No, he never did. Not that I remember, no. Let's see. I don't think he appeared anyplace else. Like, let's see. Well, he appeared in the animated series. He appears in video games. But that's it. Yeah, when they first show up in the series, it was kind of weird. Where apparently he was a mercenary and he worked for the Genosian government for some reason. And later on they say, oh yeah, he's actually from the future. They said after his debut. Like apparently he read it, Jean Grey read his mind and he says, and apparently this version, apparently Jean Grey is his mother, not Madeline Pryor. I thought that was kind of weird. Like, everyone's like, oh yeah, that guy there, that's Cable. He is like a mercenary that was hired by the Genosian government for some strange reason. And then he pretty much was just trying to basically kill the leaders because they tricked him. Yeah, it's almost like the writers didn't know what the heck to do with him in the show. He was voiced by Lawrence Byrne, which I think he did a good job voicing the character in the show. Hmm? Yeah. But yeah, not much else to say about Cable. Good character. And, oh yeah, in case you're curious, is there trade paybacks for him? Yes, there is. There is there's a couple of books. Basically, there's a Kensen, which basically explained his one of his names. Avengers of Cyclops Phoenix and the Third Avengers of Cyclops Phoenix. That actually basically explained a little bit of his childhood. And believe it or not, this miniseries was the honeymoon, the actual honeymoon in comic of Cyclops and the Phoenix. No joke, this seriously was their honeymoon. They had to go to the future to watch over Cyclops' son. Yep. And yes, he's had his own books. Excuse me, yes. Yes, the first volume has put in the trade a good chunk of it, mind you. Yes, I'm looking at it right now. It seems like a lot of the first volume is put in the trade, but not the entirety of it, no. From what I can tell, the only issues not in trade are 37 to 44, 71 to 74, and 88 to 96. But basically, most of this volume. Second volume, yeah, that's entirely in trade. That's not much of an issue. Third volume, third run anyways, when we return to numbering, that's all in trade. And the current volume is all in trade. But the first volume is still got some issues missing from it. I don't know why, but it's just basically not all there. But you might ask, is the James Robinson issues in trade for Cable? Yes. They are in trade. So there basically answers your question when it comes to that, in case you might ask. Yep. But a lot of the time, Cable basically is involved with crossovers. Like, he's basically involved with Onslaught, Operation Zero Tolerance. Yeah, he's always involved in some kind of crossover related to X-Men. Is he involved with Extinction Agenda? No. Okay. Is he involved with no, definitely not the Murion Saga. That one, no. The first crossover he's involved with is kind of in a way Executioner's Song with Blood and Metal. That's the first time he's actually involved with the crossover. Is it about Fatal Attractions? Nope. Okay, what about, no, definitely not Blood Ties. Child's Play, I don't think so. Nope. Definitely not Child's Play. Phalanx Covenant? Yes, this was the first one he was involved with. Mm-hmm. What about? Well, not this one. Oh, in case you're curious, though, yeah, he was kind of involved with Age of Apocalypse. When his book was briefly replaced with X-Man. Yes, X-Man, who later got an ongoing series. And a lot of people are like, what, really? Yes, really, he did. He was Operation Zero Tolerance. He was... Yes, he was involved with 12 and Ages of Apocalypse. And that was the last one for quite some time he was involved with. I mean, after Age of Apocalypse, next time he was involved with crossover was Messiah War, Second Coming. Actually, the book ended before Second Coming. But yeah, not a lot. Next time, basically, after Messiah War would not be until X of Swords. And he's also involved with Hellfire Gala, and that's it. He's not involved with that many crossovers. Usually a lot of really known crossovers people do know of if you're a hardcore comic fan. But yeah, that's going to be pretty much it for this particular review. Definitely tomorrow I'm going to try to work on Fairy Tail and, of course, do my reviews for newest episodes of How Realist Hero Rebuilt the Kingdom, The Case Study of Volantes, and Case Closed. Okay? See you next video. Bye.